talk about the history of Africa and these holidays and what they were during that time and what they are now. And then the following day we're gonna have a dinner. We're gonna learn a new dance style. So if you've never done the waltz, all right, you're not gonna be in there, you know, boogalooing or whatever. You know what I mean? We're gonna learn absolutely nothing to do with it. So we wanted to introduce that side of the culture too, because that go in the lines, the Walmart. The information worldwide now. People are watching these presentations on different continents now. So if you have business products or services that you have, we want to make a marketplace for you. We're probably going to use Imhotep because we can get a lot of vendors in that space to advertise. You have a few minutes to come up, advertise before the group, tell what your product, your service is, bring all your business cards, link with people, you know, who are in the nation, build a better business network. And then from there, we're good. So aboriginalsummit.org, check those out. And then the officers pretty soon should have tickets to all that. We'll arrange on it. And if you have questions about that at the end, we'll make sure you get your questions answered. That's good. Well, you know, what I did was I disseminated our indigenous resource group, which is basically a truncated business offering from ARNA. And I wanted to offer that as a schematic for what's going on with the Millions March. How many people are in October going down to DC for the march? Well, if you're not, then there'll be millions of people there. And it's an opportunity, again, for us, whenever we come together, it's an opportunity for us to talk about how to do things better in our community. So we came up with a construct that we thought would be good based on things we've been doing at ARNA, and I got that into certain people's hands, and my attempt was to get it directly to the minister, but you know, because of how the security is going, you can't do it. So he did a Roland Martin interview, and he did mention some of the things that were affiliated with it. So maybe he did get it. And the idea is, if we in this moment in time, where we get millions of people together, then we need to focus on and building confidence in people to participate. And the result of participation. That's all it is. So hopefully we can get that message over to him. But we'll be there. We'll be there participating. So that's the best thing we can do is continue to share the message. Okay. All right, so let's jump into this presentation. Again, we do these presentations to give a general orientation into what we're studying. All of us are students. The better you study, the better you can help yourself. I had a situation this weekend. I haven't been sick maybe in about 2 years, right? And my children were at their grandmother's, and their mother was there, and she brought back some viral thing that they had going on, right? Probably because they were eating something they weren't supposed to eat. But sometimes that happens when you go to grandma's. So anyway, she came back, and we went out to eat somewhere. So the combination of me eating something that I wouldn't normally eat, which was some baked potato fries or whatever, and because I usually eat raw food besides a few things. And then being in that environment, I got laid on my back Friday night. Like literally, like, whoa, walking up the steps. What's that? And I felt the mucus developing a little bit earlier. Like, okay, what's going on? 2 hours later, I had to literally lay down out Friday night to her trip. And I was too tired to even walk down the steps. So I'm laid out in the bed, and walked around a little bit, went to the park, and so Saturday I was good. Now meanwhile, my youngest son, he's still recovering. He's into it. I'm saying that to say that if he was around me, of course he would. that long, but I'm saying that to say about a health condition. All right. A lot of this has to do with resources. So people have a tendency and orientation to eat what's around them. They learn what's around them. Their environment shapes what's around them. So what I want to do today is kind of go through a little orientation on mental and biological disease and how we can champion changing these circumstances. All right. Bring this around a little bit. Can anybody see that? Yep. Okay. Try to get that a little tighter. All right. So ARNA is all about business, the business of our folk. So when you come into these classes, you're learning something. You're going to spend an hour about communication, let you ask some questions, and it starts you in the process of getting orientated. By the time you come to 4 classes, you got a decision to make, because this is not church. And the decision is this information and is this structure good for me? If it is good for me, I want to become a part of it. If it's not good for me, I'm going to continue to study to figure that out at the end of the day. All right? And what we're saying is, when we look at the societal structure, all right, we see the United States, we see businesses, we see all kinds of things going on. And what we're saying is, since we, our people, have gotten out of the denationalization, which is, what we call slavery, we've been making attempts to try to figure out how to catch up, how to build ourselves up, how to make ourselves stronger from that adverse condition. And we tried a lot of things. We tried civil rights, we tried a whole bunch of things. And some of the business that we flourished as individuals, but as a group, we find ourselves in these complex things where we need more information, more knowledge, so we can use it better. So that's what ARNA is. ARNA is here as a body politic in indigenous government. In the same way that you have the Cherokee, in the same way that you have the Seminole, in the same way that you have the Navajo, all these other groups, you have a group that's specifically tailored to addressing our issue of denationalization. So whether you are RPG, whether you're in the Moorish Science Temple of America, whether you're in the Nation of Gods and Earths, whether you're in the Nation of Islam, whether you're a Black Panther, whatever it might be socially, community, I don't know, whatever you may be, you have a place here. And the place that you have is develop your talents and gifts, get business minded and oriented, and get busy. That's what we're here for. All right? We're not here to tell you what religion to follow. We're not here to convince you of anything. We're here to teach you cultural science and to get you to see it, test it, study it, and then make decisions based on it. Now, how many people have seen this video? Urban Kryptonite. If you've never seen it, it was something that Brother Damien and some of the other brothers came up with. And I'm in this documentary, and it's about health problems in the so-called African American community. So you can get this at urbankryptonite.com. But this is an excellent documentary because it has a lot of people in it. Dr. Africa, some of the famous people in medicine and nutrition in North America, and you can get this. But it's the concept that's important. Urban kryptonite. We're killing ourselves. It's nothing wrong. Nobody has to be a fruitarian or a breatharian. We're not asking people to do that. We're not asking you to be a raw food. We're asking you to do the best that you can to stay healthy. All right? And that requires a lot of different types of knowledge. Our mental health can be best suited when we know what establishes mental health or what can increase what mental health you already have. And our biological health can come through tested and proven methods of science. That prove this works, this doesn't work. Our greatest health as a people is only going to come through operating as a unit. Period. That's our greatest health. Because all of our resources will be ours, all of our patents, all of our trademarks, all of our health facilities. All right, our children can be born with our trained midwives or nurse practitioners or whatever we have, we can do a lot of things inside without external parasitic institutions leeching off of us. But we have to know how to accomplish those particular things. All right. So whenever we see disparity in our community, it's a result of some type of a lack of knowledge about how to live. Now the knowledge can be all around you. It's Sunday. There are people in church, right? The people in church will leave the church or at the church and go into the basement and eat what is considered in the book they just read an abomination. Right? Now you can't force anybody out of that circumstance. But when they get into a circumstance where they might be injured by it, you can offer them some information. If it improves them, then it might broaden their horizon. So we're about the mental security and the biological security of our people. But we can't be mentally secure if we don't know the things that are the best types of information. When I was the principal at Muhammad's Islamic Academy, I had developed a program in the school system called CORE. This is the regular public school system before I got into the private school system, called Creating Order and Responsibility in Education. And I had a component in it that taught how to associate children based on birthdays. I didn't tell them that it was based on, astro studies, but I just implemented it. And basically it said that certain children born on certain days have certain energies. So if you had a child that had a calm and relaxed energy because they were born on a certain date, you wouldn't put those children with hyperactive children. You put the hyperactive children together and you put the calmer children together. All right? So if you're going to go through astrology, if somebody's a Cancer and they had a table with an Aries, a Leo, and a Sagittarius, the Cancer is going to be irritating. Because they want a calm environment so they can learn. So they're going to complain about the Aries, fire, which is trying to take control of everything, the Leo, which is commanding all of the attention, and the Sagittarius, which is all over the place. Fire, energetically. So the water in the Cancer is literally boiling. But we don't get taught to organize our children in educational environments like that. We get taught, put them all in the same room, all right, which is chaos, and then you put them all in the same room. If that child says, I can't, I have a problem, they're too loud. Well, it's loud time, you're a crybaby. You start insulting the child because they're trying to stay within their energy. The teacher is going off a curriculum that was set by the Carnegie Foundation or whoever else in the early 1900s. And now we don't have our indigenous education to learn how we're supposed to arrange and order things. Very same thing could be in a marriage. You're in a marriage and you don't know the other person's energies, so you start disrespecting the person's personal space, energetic space. All right? So it took me inside of marriage a long time to get the knowledge and then learn how to, respect, the other party's space. Or to have that reciprocated, or not, based on, but at least having a template. Because you can imagine if a person likes to be alone a lot, and you're trying to force them to be in group environments, and their charting says that they are supposed to be alone a lot. Now the design that their creator gave them, you're trying to get them to go against that for the sake of an emotional satisfaction. And that is the programming of a democratic society. All right? The program of a democratic society is we don't respect laws. Freedom is completely free from everything, including laws and rules and regulations when it comes to those things. All right? So what we're saying is, and I always slate the beginning of these for children, here are your ancestors right here. These are not people from Africa, even though they share the same genotype. This is not a depiction from Africa, or what we call it Africa. And it's okay for it not to be. It doesn't disrupt the concepts of Pan-Africanism or any of those other things. What it says is that we have been on every part of the planet. What it says is that we're home. What it says is, when you hear ARNA now, for the Aboriginal Republic of North America, it makes sense. It's not strange. All right? What it says also is, if you visit these places, and the people are calling themselves the descendants of the people who did that, and they don't look like them, that somebody has been obstructed. So your children need to learn this reality. They're not going to learn it in the public school system. So we have to create the moment in time and space for them to learn it. All right? Other depictions. All right? I always like to show these because when we talk about nationality, this is what we're talking about. This is what we call just sanguinis. Rights via bloodline. This is your bloodline depicted on the walls in the Bonampak Marrows in Mexico. All right? These are, excuse me, these are the first Native Americans. All the feathers and the regalia and the locks and the braids that you wear today, they were doing that thousands of years ago. All right? So now, when we look for ourselves and we're taught only to look at Africa, the reason why we're taught that is to fall into a trap. So we get some glory, but then we fall into The Origin of Species by Darwin, because now, according to the thesis that we're operating from, all life coming out of Africa, it wasn't black people who gave you that thesis. It wasn't indigenous people who told you all life came out of Africa. It was white people. But you thought they were doing that because they were trying to uplift you some kind of way. And on the surface, that's what they were doing. That's what speculative masonry is all about. It's about giving somebody something that appears to be a benefit for them, so you can give them what you really want, which will give you the benefit. Psychological game. So out of Africa, the evolution. So now, in order to subscribe to that, you have to subscribe directly or indirectly to evolution. And by describing to evolution, you are dismissing thousands of years of scientific study of indigenous peoples. Thousands of years. You're also subscribing to ideologies that are going to take you somewhere. Atheist, agnostic, all right? So we have to be very careful with education and how we educate ourselves. And so now Arna is saying, let us be the new education mode for you, all right? Let us give you some information. And let us give you the type of mental information that can put you in the best format. Now, how many people have ever heard of this? Prophecy. What is prophecy? Predicting something. All right? Predicting something that's going to come. And when we think about prophets, we think about people in the Bible and the Quran and ancient stuff, and Buddhas and all of that. So what if I said that the director of Google Technology is a prophet? The average religious people are going to say, it's impossible for him to be a prophet. But what if he's calculated that certain things are going to happen repeatedly and they keep happening before they happen? All right? So Ray Kurzweil has been calculating that certain things will happen in the technology field over the last 40 years, and they've been happening right on time when people are telling him that it's not going to happen. All right? Everybody know who Ray Kurzweil is, right? If you don't know, he is a transhumanist. And a transhumanist is someone who thinks that technology one day will have to merge with biology in order for human beings to have the greatest success that they can have. All right? So Google has a new line of robots. Boston Robotics is doing a line of robots, and the robots can walk around and they can talk and they can do a whole bunch of things. All right? And they're high into artificial intelligence. And Ray, to give you an idea of who he is, he made prophecies about the Human Genome Project, okay? All the stuff you're using in Google technology, the algorithmic sciences, and the information that you're using in the computers, he's the designer of those particular things. So you can look up these people, because these are people who are prophets for their own people. All right? So when people want to invest, they listen to him, and he knows it, and his buddies can form the corporations that the people are going to invest in. And now, when the moment comes, they're making money. Now, when indigenous were operating with that same thing, we had all the money. We had all the money. So Mansa Musa have his council of spiritual advisors, and he knew just what to do, what to invest in, how to make world power. World power. I'm talking about resources, construction, all of those things. So our community needs that type of formatting. All right? And it's not spooky. All right? Europeans are using issue. Ronald Reagan's wife used it, right? She consulted traditional indigenous practices through a European who practiced it to save her husband. Because he was in a line of people that had an indigenous prophecy that said he was going to be knocked off in office. And every president that had come up on that zero term had been knocked off. All right? So we need to understand that just because we're not using, don't think nobody's using it. Because the successful people are. And I'm telling, what we're saying is, if we can develop that type of thing on and we're working to do it, then we can bring ourselves more mental security. All right? It's nothing like being able to plan a plan and knowing that at each moment, every part of the plan is going to manifest to the end. That's security, right? The reason why you go to work is to get money to secure yourself from month to month or whatever you pay your mortgage and your light bill or whatever. And your calculation is, if I get this money, then these lights are going to stay on. You prophesize on a small level. All right? So imagine if you could increase that. Check this out. Listen to Tortuguero monument. Let me show you how bad indigenous people are. On this land, this is the Tortuguero monument. This is where the Mayan prophecy came from. Anybody heard the prophecy of Mayan 2012? And they said there was the end of the world. What happened? What happened?
Paradigm shift.
Paradigm shift? What happened? What happened was people mocked it and said, "Oh man, that's a Mayan BS." All right? That's a Mayan BS. So how many people actually heard of anything about this prophecy in 2012 about the Mayans? You ever heard anything about it? Right? How many people have never heard anything about it? It's okay, raise your hand, because if you haven't heard it, I want to inform you. Basically what it was the Mayan calendar made predictions about the end of a time, and so when people translated it, they thought that the Mayans were talking about the end of the world. So this is the monument that they were translated from. So when the translators translated it, then some other people got it, and they went into their whole thing about the Mayans predicted the end of the world. So everybody was looking for 2012. There's even a movie called 2012, right? About earthquakes and stuff going on. So when it didn't happen, it made it look like, oh, that's just one of those spooky indigenous traditions. Check this out. How many people got my book, Star Prophecy? All right, so if you know what I'm showing you right here, this is a star that is now in our solar system. This is what the Mayans were talking about. So it wasn't about the end of the world. They were making a prediction that actually was fulfilled, while now people are laughing and they don't even know what's happening. So to give you an idea, the sun is pretty important, right? In fact, if we're going to talk about mental health, you can't divorce yourself away from incorporating any studies of the sun and the biological impact of the sun. And if you think that's far out, you can go right down to the street to Temple University and get a degree in astrobiology. Literally. So these are subjects. Astrobiology has been a part of curriculum since the 70s. And what is astrobiology? It's a study of biological life forms in the celestial environment and on the terrestrial environment, and how celestial environments affect the terrestrial environments. So when we start talking about this stuff, people think we're making some stuff up, but you can go get a degree in it. How many people saw the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still? All right, and it had Keanu Reeves in it, and the little orbs start coming down. The lady who was the first person to interact with him, what was she? She was an astrobiologist. All right? So these are real subjects. So my point is, people laughing at indigenous people, but everything they're saying keeps happening, right on time. All right. So the Dogon talked about this. The Olmec Mayans talked about this. The Hopi talked about this. If you've ever heard of Blue Star, Red Star Kachina, they talked about this. All right, and it's happening right now. You literally have another star in your solar system right now. If you don't have that, you can get the book, the Star Prophecy, right here from Black and Nobel, so you can read up on it. My point is, there are parts of our ancestry, not all of it, but there are parts of our ancestry we can have high confidence in. All right? Because some of our ancestors were crazy as hell, just like us. Right now. That's how we got. But some of our ancestors were actually really on point on a lot of different levels. On circumstance, like us, right? And then some of them can come out of the poverty and get really rich, right? And some of them can stay in the poverty and be really poor, right? The really rich people and the really poor people have that shared experience, so they're going to have mental things that are similar. Despite the fact that they've come out of, they went into different economic classes, all right? So you'll see behavioral dynamics in people that are similar based on experience, memory, and the effect of those particular things and how they're handed down. All right? So being really wealthy does not exclude you from the experience of what we experience as a people. Being really poor doesn't lock you down into it. All right? It's just a shared experience. But if you're going to study the human mind, let's see. How do I want to touch on this? Let's go here. This is a book, a really expensive book. It's called The Geomagnetic Field in Life, Geomagnetobiology. This is a subject that the Russians actually developed. Studying how the Earth's magnetic field affects the mind and biology in humans and behavior. Okay? So if you put some electrodes to your head, we can measure what's called brain waves. Everybody knows what a brain wave is? It's an oscillating frequency in the brain, and sometimes it'll make certain areas have more energy in it. Your frontal lobe might have more energy when you're up and active. Your occipital lobe might have more energy when you're asleep. All right, so that can be detected. That can be detected by neuroscientists. But what's important is it's waves. So all waves that are operating on this planet come from the Earth spinning. So whatever is affecting the Earth's magnetic field is also affecting the thoughts, behavior, etc. of the people. So our people were smart enough to incorporate studying the Earth's brain and how it related to our brain. All right? Now, that might seem like a far out concept, but you way out into the ethos. No, it's actually pretty simple. And how simple it is if you live in a city that's highly toxic, with gases being emitted from cars a lot, and you're not doing things like going into a park or making sure that you know how to breathe, you could end up later in your life with respiratory problems or hypoxia. I put people on my machine and I can look at them and say, boom, you got hypoxia. What is hypoxia? Your oxygen levels are low because you're not breathing properly, getting enough breathing in, and you're not getting enough exercise and being in environments with trees because you live in the city and you have to take time out to do that. But it has everything to do with the atmosphere, the environment in the atmosphere. So now, that poor environment in the atmosphere, lowering the level of oxygen in your body can give you a disease, a malady. You can get asthma. Why do I have asthma? I always have asthma because it runs in the family. Bronchial issues run in the family. No, drinking a cow pus, from the time that we're young, and not having good nutrition is running in the family. Okay. So our people studied celestial sciences in order to make sense out of how the mind actually operates. Now, how many people have heard of a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah? Anybody know what a bar mitzvah is supposed to be?
Like a rites of passage.
It's rites of passage. And what does it basically say? That the young Jewish male is now coming into adulthood, and now he is responsible for himself. His parents can no longer be the ones who take the responsibility for him in the sense of his behavior. All right? And the same thing is for a bat mitzvah. All right? So they start studying more into the Torah so that they can learn how to become adults. And if you go to Williamsburg and Brooklyn and different places, you can see them doing bar mitzvah celebrations all the time. You see the children with the garb on that signifies that. And it's about coming into adulthood. All right, so when you think about people who are controlling the resources in communities and are building wealth, they take the time to make sure that their children are learning their tradition and learning about how the family operates in business. So by the time that they get 18, they're going to choose the Ivy League school that they're going to go to. And then after they complete it, they're going to become the judge, the lawyer, the doctor, or have shares in the institution as well. Or they're talking about continuing the inheritable wealth of their people. And they're starting by programming the child at a young age. That's what I'm trying to get to. Because by programming the child, you are tapping into what the child already has, and you're showing them and giving them the confidence, the mental confidence, that they can step into this place that you have reserved for them, and they're going to step into it. Now, question. If you're an elder, you got grandchildren, or you got children, what are your children being programmed with? What are your children being programmed that they're going to inherit? And how is that affecting their mental health? How it's affecting their mental health is it puts them into a little box that makes them think this much of themselves, and they behave out of that box, and you ask, what's wrong with the children? What's wrong with the children? You send them to school, and you ask, what's wrong with the children? They learn white supremacy all day, and you ask, what's wrong with the children? All right? They grow up around poverty or broken family structures, and you ask, what's wrong with the children? Dad or mom is not there, and you're asking, what's wrong with the children? All right, what's wrong with the children is their mental health is being shaped to make them partially insane. So now we have to figure out how to change that dynamic. All right? If you talk to the average person, it could be an adult and a child, about morality, in the United States of America, that's considered like a subjective thing. Morality is just, people want to do that because that's what they desire. But what you'll find is, when you start looking at stats of people who are married and communities that have people who are married versus community of people who are not married, and therefore they are, they are doing, whatever it is. The people who are married have environments where people are not incarcerated more, all right? They're probably going to send their children off to higher forms of education on a more often, and their actual said income is probably higher and less dependent on public services. So there you have a principle, a moral principle, a principle of societal structure that comes from an indigenous tradition, all right? And then you have the current theme, which is, we're democratic, do what you want to do. And you measure the two against each other, and what you find out is that these people who are practicing certain principles have less of a tendency to get into certain things, all right, or have certain problems. So what indigenous culture teaches you on a high level is the science of morality. Is the ability to control your own autonomy with less friction. Your own individual autonomy and your group autonomy. So what does that look like? Because we live in a godless society now. All right? In fact, we live in a society where, because people have figured out religions have been faking it on them, all right? They don't want anything to do with that type of thing, and the younger people are just running off with no education on, okay, yeah, they did mess it up, but here's the real skinny on that. So check this out. How many people have ever seen this picture? This was a picture that used to be in the Blue Room in the oldest Masonic hall in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, in the United States of America. Right down at Broad and Market. This was in the Blue Room. This is George Washington. This is Andrew Ellicott, and this is Benjamin Banneker. They're under a tent, and he's handing them a plan for what is now Washington, D.C. All right. Notice you have two globes here, and the colors and everything represent something. The red represents the Rosicrucians. This represents the Scottish Rite and Masonry. And what they're telling you is, indigenous people developed Masonry, operative Masonry, the real Masonry, which is about how to construct society and government. How to actually build structures, and not only build structures, build the structures and keep the secrets of nature in the structures. That's a whole different lifestyle. All right? So here you have him standing, they're sitting. They're showing you who the authority is. And uniquely, and I'm going to show you the significance of this, they're in a triangle. Right? They're in a triangle. Here you have the triangle again. So what does that represent? It represents, first of all, Benjamin Banneker designing this. The schematic for this area. Which you now have the White House, the Washington Monument, and the Capitol on. This is all based on astronomical indigenous sciences. So he aligned this area to the constellation Virgo and to the stars Regulus, Spica, and Arcturus. So now those are energy centers, Earth energy centers mirroring astronomical centers. This is an ancient form of building that indigenous people partook in, and these Masons are now participating. All right? And by doing this, they are telling you that they have co-opted your sciences, all right? And there you go. This is so show the constellation. All right. Now this point in space is how we, if you see us put dates on documents, 15,101, this is how we actually do the count. We count from this star. And counting from this star and the sun in its progression all around the galactic center will give you up to date 15,000 years into a 25,000 year cycle. So that's how much these folk down at the Scottish Rite Lodge who are in the higher levels know. All right? And when they get their 33rd degree, the degree is symbolic of this angle, which is 33.3 degrees. Literally. You can measure this angle with a protractor and you'll get that. So what they're saying is, we got your stuff. Your mental health can't be that good if we got your stuff. And we're using it and you are not using it. Now you can't say we didn't use it. In every religious book and every civilization on earth, this is the first pharaoh of Tameri. He's mimicking the shape of the constellation Orion. All right? And all of this, again, is based on astronomical science. So this is called a Narmer palette. All right? So a large part of our mental health is based on our indigenous traditions. It's very hard to live indigenous traditions if you don't have a body politic that's reinforcing it. And reinforcing the resources to invest in it continuously. And it will become a problem further along if we don't do it. If you don't think celestial sciences are important, not only in our ancient, not only depicted in their Masonic, but in the actual governing authority of the actual governing sciences, meaning the law, check this out. from a book called Know Your America, a suggested course in Americanism, prepared and distributed by the American Legion. All right. Question: by what authority was our first national flag established? Answer: authorized by who? Question 2. Quote the exact language of the original flag law. All right. From the Journals of the Continental Congress. Answer: resolved that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternate, red and white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field, representing a new what? Constellation. City of the heavens. So they're incorporating it into the governmental structure with the building of the buildings. They're incorporating it into the flag. And they're incorporating it for who? If people don't know who they're talking to. They're talking to themselves. They're talking to their children. Because now, why does it have to be in code? It has to be in code because it's for a selected group. It's not for everybody. So now, you have the red, white, and blue, which anybody who studies masonry knows what this is. This is the entered apprentice, federal craft, and the master mason. The first 3 degrees of masonry. It's telling you who's holding the information. And then the circle of 13 stars represents the traditions that they got from indigenous people that they're using. They're using your stuff and you don't know it. So how good could your mental health? Could you imagine playing chess with somebody and you only play checkers? It's your first game and this is the world master? How you gonna be? You don't even know the pieces to the board. You don't even, he has to tell you how to, which places, where to move the pieces. He or she has to tell you what's actually checkmate and what's not. That's what's happening. You have people who have more influence, who have more time to study, who are investing more in themselves, and you're mad at them and calling them white supremacists. I'm not mad at them. I expect them to do that. If I was them, I'd be doing the same thing. Investing in ourselves. Our problem is we don't want to take responsibility for investing in ourselves. So guess what that's going to get you? You reap what you sow. See, now that changes the whole dynamic when you read that, right? You reap what you sow. If you are sowing discord and chaos, you're going to reap it. All right? If you're sowing poverty or poverty paradigms, you're going to reap it. If you're sowing ignorance, you're going to reap the benefits of ignorance. So there's no magical curse on black people. There's a lack of a knowledge of self and a lack of an implementation of things that by law will get you the results of what you want. And having the desire to pioneer those things into existence. So they've been using this stuff. But look at you. Look at when the Moors had their science. Let me break something down to you. You probably never heard this verse from the Quran. And if an Arab translator, you're definitely not going to get this. All right? The very things that we do on a daily basis are pure science around us of the most magnificent thing, and we don't pay attention to it. All right? So this is a verse about sleep and death, and it's comparing the two together. Now, everybody who goes to sleep knows you're in a horizontal position, usually. Usually you don't sleep standing up, but some people can. But you most likely desire to lay in a horizontal position for the scientific purposes of what a horizontal position does to your brain waves. All right? As opposed to a vertical position to the earth. When you're in a vertical position, it creates another type of charge in your brain as opposed to a horizontal position. All right? So when you sleep, your brain waves go into a slower state, a long wave state. All right? When you're up, they're in a more active and direct. When you're up, they're shorter. When you're asleep, they're longer. They can extend further. So look at this verse. Now, it's supposed to be a religious book, but it's actually a book of science by the authors of it. It's been turned into a religious book. All right? The Creator takes Yatawafa, which means takes, the Al-Anfusi. The word here is nafs, but this is just a conjugate of it. Nafs means a soul or a mind. All right? So the Creator takes the mind upon its death. All right? So the nafs is the energy in the body. You lose it, you die. You keep it, you stay alive. You increase it, you stay healthy. Upon its death, and those that do not die during sleep. So whoever wrote that would have to know that the body is in a less energetic state. All right? and be able to substantiate it. Then he withholds those anfusi, all right, the mind upon whom the decree of death occurs, and sends the others, nafs, back. So what happens when you wake up? Right. The body waking up is the body getting more nafs, or energy. All right. The serotonin and the melatonin switch cycles in the hormones in the brain, and now the brain starts to secrete more glucose into the body to wake you up. Because during the night when you're asleep, you don't need that amount of glucose. All right. It's not even important. All right. Certainly, there are signs in this for people who reflect. All right. So now look at this science. It said Allah takes them. Takes them where? In a suitcase? And put them somewhere? This is a depiction of our galaxy. All right. We are right here. This is our sun. We're right here going around. The sun is going around this bad boy every 25,000 years. All right. Now, what scientists won't tell you is that this said black hole right here, all right, has 16 stars immediately in its vicinity and is causing everything in it to turn, all right, or to move. Now ask yourself a question without being spooky and being a common sense human being, all right? If you wanted to get up and go to the bathroom, you could get up and go to the bathroom by your own what? Willpower, right? Your own willpower would allow for you to do that because you have a human will. You can do those things. All right. If you live on an Earth that's traveling 1,037 miles per hour on its own rotation, 66,000 miles going around the sun, and the sun is moving around another force, really a black hole at the center, then that's telling you a lot of things about the nature of the universe that you live in. The first thing that it tells you about the nature of the universe that you live in is that there is a force that is a determining factor based on systems of law for your life to exist. I'm going to say that again so you can get it. There's a force operating in this galaxy, really in the universe, that's causing things to have the ability to exist like your sun. Because without this force causing the sun to move, you wouldn't have a sun. And what would you be without a sun?
Non-existent.
Non-existent. And since the sun is making the earth turn, without the sun making the earth turn from the power that's making it turn, so our ancestors called this force Allah. That's it. That's the, or Amun-Re. Different terms for it. Now the force operates based on laws, not emotions. So the force isn't killing people. The force isn't going to send nobody to hell or heaven.